I was blind blown at this. Apparently, so we've never spoken about the emergency in the 70s. We know that there was an emergency in the 70s, but we don't know the implication that it had on our constitution at all. And then, over and
Yeah.
above all of this, what's crazy is that there's not one, and this is something which I never really knew till I was like in my early 20s, is that different people can define history differently. So you have different people actually creating their own definition of how past events happened, right? Like different in different ways. Like people create different kinds of maps. People have different narratives about the same event, and that's also a part of
Yes.
actually looking at events from a critical lens, which is looking at it from an appraising to see, okay, this group of people said this, but this group of people said this about the same event, and that actually tells you that events themselves are limited by our ability to actually note them down and remember them, and that's a whole different learning altogether.
Yeah.
And where do you learn that in our Indian education system?
When I came in my degrees, like when I was in my undergraduate, my professor told us in the class that history is, we don't know if it's true.
Yeah.
It is a manipulated subject. The writers before, we don't know. We cannot tell. Yes, after a certain time when technology came, and now we have proofs of certain age. But before that, we do not know. We have sort of taken the like the facts around it and just made a conclusion, because human wants to conclude. They don't want to give the facts the way it is. We always want to come to a conclusion that this is this, and that's what we've been doing.
That can make you so susceptible to bullshit, right? As a person, it doesn't make you think twice about information that's coming to you. So suddenly you're not questioning anything. Somebody will fucking turn around and tell you that, yeah, you know what Gandhi did? Gandhi was a traitor. He didn't want what was good for India. He wanted what was good for the British. And people will start casting accusations at him. They'll start like worshipping Nathuram Godse, who was a right winger who actually killed, who basically assassinated Gandhi. And people will like create this whole counter narrative without actually being able to put those conversations to test. Now the thing is that now with social media and all, everyone can share shit. So there will be a larger group of people who will believe in this because they don't know how to look at history critically. They won't be able to say, okay, fine, Gandhi did this, and people say he's bad, but what are the results of setting a peaceful constitution over a long period of time? People won't contrast that with authoritarian nations that have not had this kind of democratic process. People are not going to appraise how other leaders across the world actually learned from Gandhi's method of peaceful non-cooperation and were able to launch movements of their own across the world, right? People like Mandela, people like Martin Luther King Jr., people like that. So yeah, then you can set up a whole different narrative on things, saying, okay, you know what, this guy's an asshole. This guy's the reason why I'm going through so much shit. If we would have fought, we would have gotten victory and things like that. And yeah, well, you can appraise that argument, but like if you're going to tell me this and people are going to believe it just because somebody said it, that's problematic. And I think that's what